Adam?
What's up? We're doing a follow-up video.
Yes, Adam's very excited to do this video. He wants to tell me that I'm wrong. He's very excited.
Look, I'm never excited to tell us. This is me coming to a friend to tell them, look, the cancer test came back positive.
Oh my God.
You're dying.
So, okay. So I'm not actually even sure what I'm wrong about exactly. I don't know if I'm wrong about the essentialness of forgiveness to Christianity, or if I'm wrong about me saying that I seem to recall in our first conversation about this, that I didn't, my argument was not that that forgiveness was essential to Christianity, but that forgiveness was the primary attribute of Christianity. So I'm not sure which one of those you have a contention with.
Okay, well, the disagreement, there wasn't here. I took some notes here so we can just go to that. So we had an exchange that began on the Sunday show, just to give you guys a backstory. That was a very minor exchange, but I do admit it kind of ticked me off a bit. But look, we do a show together. I get ticked off like 4 or 5 times. every time we do a show together, Sitch has this very like dismissive attitude that sometimes ticks me off. But whatever. Look, yeah, exactly. So I know exactly what happened. I felt like you kind of undermined my credibility on something that was one of my core identities. Now, look, I could be wrong about how, if we do a poll of Christianity worldwide, I could completely be incorrect. So, I mean, you're right to question me there. But the reason why it ticked me off was we were having an exchange about Christianity, and I levied a claim about Christianity. I grew up a Christian. All my friends are Christian. And I felt like I had some credibility on it. And Sitch was just kind of like, nah, you don't have any credibility on this, that's what
I actually did say those words. Yeah. That's what I literally said.
Look, I have the clip. We're going to listen to the clip. So we'll go back and assess the situation.
Can relive the experience.
But look, and then also you made some claims that kind of bordered on, Christians are more the Matt Walsh types.
Did I?
And this is where I think it could be offensive, because look, if we're having a conversation, I come in and I say, look, there are all these negative stereotypes about Jewish people, right?
True.
And you say, look, Adam,
they build a lot of tunnels.
Look, you say, Adam, you're completely incorrect about these stereotypes, okay? And they're offensive. And I go, well, maybe you're wrong about the Jewish stereotypes, Sitch. Maybe they are correct. That's going to be offensive, right?
Sure, definitely.
Yeah.
If I did that, it was an accident. So I am curious to hear back this clip.
Look, I'm sure it is a total accident.
Right.
Yeah. Look, I'm not saying you're doing anything nefarious. And look, I do think there are people in the world that could do that unintentionally. I guess it's kind of harder with the Jewish stereotypes, right? The Christian stereotypes, the Christian stereotypes, I've never really thought too much about. So,
right.
So
let's hit it.
No, look, I took some notes here. So, I said we need the forgiveness meme in society, and Christianity teaches that forgiveness meme. That was the exchange. We're going to listen to the exchange after this, but I just want to lay out my recollection of the situation, right? So I'm making this claim that forgiveness is important and Christianity teaches forgiveness. And you make the claim that everyone who learns Christianity has a completely different interpretation of Christianity. There's no underlying message. Some learn forgiveness, some learn to hate the gays, the Matt Walsh types. And I say people have different interpretations of Christianity as long as most of them are learning forgiveness. It could be as high as 80%, like an 80-20 split. 20% are coming out Matt Walsh's and 80% are coming out learning forgiveness. And you say, I think it's less than 80% of Christians believe in forgiveness. Okay, so that is my understanding of the claim. So we go back. Is this
a clip you're going to play, or we're watching a different clip?
That's the original clip. That's the clip that I'm going to play. So, and then we go into the next Tuesday stream, and I can't remember. Look, after that, I do a poll because I'm curious myself, like what it would come out with forgiveness, right? I'm thinking this poll will settle this controversy and I'll be able to vindicate the Christians on our channel, right? But I bring up the poll and Sitch moves the goalpost and I accuse him of moving the goalpost. And it's kind of a petty exchange between us that lasts a lot of the live stream because look, I feel like you moved the goalposts here. I feel like
only one of us is being petty in that conversation.
I know. Look, I know I'm complete. Look, I take full responsibility, and one of the things is I'm trying to kind of move past this. I realize that I get in this, so this is look, it is what it is, right?
Okay, yeah, I agree.
So but you understand, and we've been in situations before with other creators where I feel like, okay, this is bad faith here. You're totally moving the goalpost. You're not accepting. I've brought you evidence and you're not accepting it. So here's the goalpost move as I perceive it. Sitch says, I would be surprised if the central foundation, essential theme of Christianity is forgiveness. That's what you originally say. I would be convinced of the claim that most people learn forgiveness if people could unprompted answer forgiveness is a central theme of Christianity on a poll, which I think is an impossible standard. So we kind of get in this argument over the way I worded the poll. You're saying, look, this poll doesn't prove anything. You worded it wrong, right? And you even mentioned this. We're not going to play that clip. I don't have that clip lined up.
Yeah, we don't need that one.
But you remember the situation. And I'm like, look, this poll totally vindicates me, but you're not accepting the evidence, right?
Okay.
You're setting these impossible standards. So I have that poll for us to look at. And then, so I did another poll where I worded it exactly the way that you wanted it. And guess what? Guess what? It came out exactly how you wanted. Everybody is all over the place.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, because the wording is bad.
Oh, okay.
Look, I cleaned up the wording because the wording, the way that you wanted it worded, obviously you're going to win the poll because it's so, it's such an unjustifiable
because I'm so
standard.
correct, you mean?
Well, look, you understand the principal disagreement of the argument, right? Like I'm making the argument that Christianity teaches forgiveness. Like that's the only argument that I'm making.
I mean, if that's the only argument, I don't disagree with that argument.
Right. And then we talked about this a little bit on a previous stream, but I'll just bring it up here. So why is this so triggering for me? Well, you're basically making a claim that I don't know my own religion. So, and that is offensive to me personally, which, I shouldn't be offended. Like, fuck it. Who cares? So, look, people think things about me all the time. So that's a me problem. And also, but you're saying this a deeper thing that I think is offensive to many people in the audience and also many people who are Christians, that Christianity has no unifying message. And when I made some of these polls, you could see Christians were getting upset. They were like, look, this poll we're going to lose this poll. I think who initiated the poll? It was is it Kat Branchman? Did I get her name right?
Yeah.
Okay. So she was like, oh, this poll is not going to work because obviously the wording is completely different. So,
okay, well, let's just watch the clip.
Okay, here we go. So here's the original exchange.
I don't really care about holiday displays, but I don't think there should be a permanent fixture that is a religious symbol in a government institution like Moses or Jesus or something to that effect. Like, I don't want a big Jesus, on a cross inside Congress. Like that's just there forever. Like, to me, that'd be fucking crazy.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I just, as long as the laws are secular and applied equally to everyone, I don't care about the iconography. I think it's a part of our heritage. I understand. Well, everyone knows I'm an atheist, but I still believe that the narrative of Christianity is super, super pro-social for society. I think most societies that are brought down because they get in a cycle of violence where no one is willing to forgive anyone. Yeah. They basically have these blood feuds that go back generations and nobody's willing to put down the guns and think about the future. Christianity revolves around putting down the guns and thinking about the future. The whole idea behind Christianity is forgiveness. The main narrative is God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son to forgive the world for being such a fucked up place. And the symbol of Jesus on the cross is the ultimate symbol of forgiveness. It's like somebody is willing to let their son be sacrificed in this totally torturous way so that other people can break the cycle of violence. Now, I understand a lot of, look, I don't believe this. I'm skeptical that any of this actually happened historically. Okay. Like that's,
well, you're
but it doesn't,
atheist, obviously. You don't
right.
think it happened historically, right?
But it doesn't matter though. This idea that it's better to forgive people, even though every fiber of your being wants to get even, has to be implanted into society, into the culture, into the cultural narratives somehow. And every time I hear somebody talk about, oh, we need to get rid of all this iconography, we need to get rid of all this stuff, I think, well, how are we going to plant that idea that we should forgive someone? You know, we talked about the Dylan Roof situation, this horrible, racist, white nationalist, whatever he is. He walks into a church full of black Christians and starts mowing them down. And those people are on the news 6 hours later forgiving the guy. It's like, we're lucky in America that didn't cause a race war.
Right.
So I don't understand how you implant that idea into society, and nobody's stepping up and saying, oh, I have a suggestion here. They're just saying, look, let this Church of Satan put their Satan statue all over the place, and let's piss all over our heritage.
Okay. Here's the issue I have with what you're saying. Every person, including many Christians, look at a statue of Jesus or look at Christianity, and they have a completely different take on what it represents than what you just said. Because we're going to watch a video, actually, from a large content creator who's very Christian after this, who explicitly says that Jesus does not teach people to be tolerant, that Jesus teaches people to be intolerant. So, like, I agree. Like, if the broad idea that was being pushed here was Jesus equals forgiveness, and that was like the primary thing that everyone agreed on, you know, I might feel differently about this. And I think you would feel differently too. Like right now, I'm not, well, this maybe is what we'll be talking about, but like right at this moment in time, I'm not worried about Christian nationalism sweeping the country. And I'm not worried about like Christian militias, you know, killing non-Christians, right? I'm not worried about that. But I would imagine if that was like a threat, a hypothetical threat that you were worried about, it would completely change the context of how you would feel about like having Christian iconography in government buildings, right?
So just because your argument is some people don't accept the narrative,
well,
that doesn't discount. I just want to respond to your argument that's on the table. You're saying, look, Adam, that can't be the case because some people don't accept the narrative.
I'm not saying it can't be. I'm saying everyone, including other Christians, interprets all these signs differently. You're putting your own interpretation on it, which is fine.
My interpretation, I would argue,
that your interpretation is not a universal interpretation.
My interpretation doesn't have to be a universal interpretation. It can be 80% the interpretation, and there could be 20% who interpret it differently that don't have a substantial effect because 80% of the population interprets this the same way as me. I would make the argument that my interpretation is the overwhelming majority interpretation, and that just because you can pull out fringe cases doesn't necessarily doesn't subvert the rule.
I don't know. First of all, I mean, neither of us knows what the numbers of such a thing would be in the first place.
Well, I mean, we could look at poll numbers.
We could. I don't know if they've like, what is a statue? Like, what is the first thing that comes to mind when you look at, you know, Jesus? Would be an interesting poll. But I think it kind of taps into the Confederate statue conversation, which will obviously come up regarding this, which is that, you know, some people look at a Confederate statue of General Lee and they think of something about Southern pride or heritage. And then some people look at it and say, oh, you're defending slavery, right? And both those things are true, but like, so neither of them is like technically 100% correct. They're both accurate because someone could very easily look at like a statue of Jesus on the cross in Congress and say, oh, Well, most sects of Christianity believe if you're not Christian that you're going to burn in hell forever. That you, Adam Friendit, are going to burn in hell forever. You know, is
Yeah.
that, is that what you want the idea embedded in our law? Is that offensive to you as an individual? Well, it very well could be if that's the message. So I think it's a more difficult situation. I guess I disagree. I think it's a more difficult situation than you do.
Well, you're not really addressing my central argument
What is your
because
central argument?
I'm saying that this cultural meme of forgiveness needs to be embedded in
Well, I agree with
the
that. Yeah.
culture. Okay, so you agree. You're
Well, I agree
you're
that's
saying
essential. Yes, I agree with that. Yeah.
I'm making the argument that Christianity is currently facilitating that. You're saying, well, not with everyone. I agree. Maybe it's facilitating it with 80% of the people who are Christians. And obviously, it's not facilitating it with these Satan worshiping fucks, right? They probably don't even care about forgiveness.
That's not true. They're super big in the forgiveness. They're
Okay.
like all
Well,
super secular lefty type, like, hippies. Of course they
the
care about forgiveness.
so then look, if you're saying if you agree that we need this meme of forgiveness, give me an alternative way to infuse it into the population. Give me an
No, no,
alternative
no, no, no.
narrative.
Wait. Stop. Because it's a different question. Okay. I'm not, again, as the theist on the show, I'm not against, as I even said, I'm not even against having religious holiday displays in these various buildings, okay, at
Right.
all. And I agree with you that I think Christianity provides a very good service, at least in today's world, by helping people find meaning, by, promoting ideas of forgiveness and everything that you're saying. I agree with all of that, okay. But I'm not associating that to mean that therefore, just because I think this is a cultural part of our society, it's very important, that means that there should be religious displays, affixed in a government building, because
Right.
that has a completely different connotation than what you're suggesting.
I have no problem with the connotation.
Okay.
And especially in courthouses and stuff. My argument is that Christianity's central message is about forgiveness. And in no place do you need that message propagated more than in a courtroom, obviously. People need
Yeah, but
to move on with their lives.
yeah, but again, that's your I want to see a poll, like I'm looking for it. I can't find it like right offhand. What is it like? What is most people's like central thought about what Christianity means? Because usually when I look for polling about Christianity, it's just like how many people are Christians and stuff. It's not really like what is the actual thought process. I would actually be surprised if the majority of Christians, if you ask them on a poll, like what is the central theme of Christianity, I would be surprised if most of them would say forgiveness. I'd
Oh,
be
okay.
pleasantly surprised, but I would be
I mean,
surprised.
all I can give you are
Because I know, yeah,
anecdotes.
exactly,
Yeah.
right.
But I mean, I grew up in a church
I
and I hung
understand
out
that.
with a bunch of Christians
I understand that.
and all
Yeah.
my friends were Christians.
I mean, I don't get me wrong. I think that's obviously an important part of
And all we
Christianity.
talked about every
Yeah.
Sunday was
Right.
forgiveness.
Right.
Forgive those that sin against you.
But that obviously there's a lot of very far right Christians in this country who are involved in politics who don't seem to really be on the forgiveness train.
Yeah, but just because you can point to 20% authoritarians that
Yeah.
have twisted Christianity to serve their own maniacal interests doesn't
No,
change
no, no. Right. But if
the
those are
overwhelming majority of
I
people.
understand that. But if those are the same 20% that are pushing to have Jesus erected in a courtroom, I think that does change implications of what the iconography means and how people interpret it.
Well, look, they could be doing good for the wrong reasons. Maybe
Oh.
they think, oh, we got to put this Jesus up because Jesus is hellfire and brimstone and likes to murder sinners and stuff like
Well,
that.
here would be an
And then when
interesting
everybody walks into the church, they think, oh,
right.
forgiveness. So
He-
they could be doing good
Here would
and
be an
not even know it.
interesting social or psychology test, okay? They would just never happen, but it'd be funny. It'd be you put picture of Jesus in a courtroom, and you see if it affects like what the jury does in the sentencing with the judge. Like, is the judge going to give a lot lesser verdicts, and the jury going to find more innocent people just because there's a picture of Jesus in the courtroom, or is it going to be the opposite, or is it going to have no effect?
Okay, we can stop there. You get the argument. It's laid
Yeah.
out.
Ah, we're
Okay.
very interesting. I can just listen to us talk and talk.
Yeah, look, we had it's an interesting back and forth, but look, I understand the, I mean, I've articulated the perspective. Like,
Hmm.
obviously, I don't want to believe that my religion is teaching people to be
Awful.
authoritarian pieces of garbage.
Yeah, right. I
Exactly.
get, well,
So, like, from an
hmm,
just, from a dignity perspective, I
right.
want to think, look, my Christianity is a dignified religion. I assume you feel the same way about Judaism, even though you're not
Not
really like,
really.
okay, so you don't care.
I mean, my religious beliefs are not super closely aligned with Judaism anyway. So,
Okay.
but
Okay.
like, yeah, like, I mean, I understand what you're saying. Like, when I hear people who are kind of in the ballpark of my own spiritual beliefs, and I feel like they're misusing them or misappropriating them, it does make me very angry. So, I mean, I understand what you're talking about.
So, but there's a clear articulation of both of our positions. You're saying people look at Christianity and they see it's like a Rorschach ink blot test. Like, they all walk away thinking something completely different, which I don't even know how you can have. I mean, that doesn't seem like a
Well, it's not really
very
what. So I
useful
said,
religion.
well, okay, to be a little bit more charitable, because
Hmm.
I said everyone looks at Jesus statue and it means a different thing. But I don't mean like literally every, I mean, there's always going to be some, you'd agree with this. Everyone has some level of, personal thing that they attribute to everything. But what I'm talking about is just, I think that you could probably boil it down to like, some number of central themes of Christianity, 5, 10 themes of Christianity that, most people would probably fall upon when they see a statue of Jesus. If you ask them, like, what's the first thing you think of?
Yeah. Look,
I would think sacrifice should be one of the first things most people would say too when see Jesus
forgiveness
on the
is
cross.
sacrifice.
Okay, I mean, it can be. It
It's
doesn't necessarily.
hard to forgive people.
I understand. Forgiveness could be a type of sacrifice, but it's not necessarily sacrifice. So I'm just saying. I'm not saying every million, billion people on the planet are gonna look at Jesus and see something different, but I'm sure there's like 5 to 10 different things that people will kind of fall on if they looked at it. But do you understand that when we listen back to that clip, I specifically said regarding the polling, I said, what is the central theme of Christianity?
Oh, I
That was
got
a
a poll
specific.
on that.
Okay, but
Yeah.
so that was, but that's why that was where I was contentious with your first poll because I didn't really ask that question.
Well, but the problem that I have is central theme. Like, people are going to look at the word central theme and think completely different stuff.
Well, that was
That's
my
why I
point.
originally reworded this poll.
But
So here,
that was my whole point.
right. So let's look at the polling. Just
Okay.
look. I'm not trying to convince you of this. It sounds like
No,
you're
no, I
not
just
going to
want.
be
I
convinced.
feel
But
like there was a miscommunication in our second conversation, based off of the first conversation, and so I just want to make it clear what my exact position was.
do you agree that asking, and I asked the poll, so I have the poll numbers, we can look at them. Do you
Right.
agree that asking what the central theme of anything is going to give you completely confusing results because of the word central theme? Like, central theme means something completely different to everyone.
I wouldn't think so, but I
If
guess
we
I could.
asked it, look, if we asked people what the plot of Barbie is, we'd probably
Hmm.
get a lot of similar results.
Of
If we
course, yeah.
asked people what the central theme of Barbie is, we'd probably get stuff all over the
No,
place.
no, no, no. You're right, but that's my entire point. And okay, let's just be clear. When you say you're getting different results for central theme, do you mean like, and the Barbie's a good example. Do you mean that people don't know what the words central theme
Yes,
means, or do you
central.
mean that like people be like, well, I think it's just a funny movie for children, or I think it's about the struggles of womanhood, or I think it's
Yes,
about destroying the patriarchy. Is it the
yes.
first thing or the second thing?
Central theme is a confusing aspect.
No, 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 no. I mean, okay, what I'm asking is, are people confused by what the words central theme mean, or just that
Yes,
they have different answers for what the central theme is?
I think they're confused by what central theme means.
Okay.
I think people have different understandings of what central theme means, and that's why you get things all
Okay.
over the
Well, I mean,
place. Yeah.
I don't know what would be a better word that would be more.
Well, this is
standard,
why I
right?
use the wording that I use, foundation.
Yeah, but
Let's just
you
go
have
into
to.
the
You,
original.
okay,
Look,
well, okay, but
we're drifting
yeah, but
into
look at
just
the
how to
original
word
poll
the
that you
poll
had.
correctly. So,
But yeah, but see, but you understand the difference because in your poll, you said, is it your understanding that forgiveness is one of the most, you said one of the most important foundations? Because the thing is, if you ask me that question, I would say I agree that that is probably one of the most important foundations of Christianity. I don't disagree with that question.
right. But this goes to my original argument. And my original argument is that Christianity, people who learn Christianity, learn forgiveness. My whole argument is we have to get the meme of forgiveness into the culture. So it doesn't matter if there's nine other most important foundations, as long as Christianity is in the basket of foundations. So that's why I asked it this way.
Well, it
That's my
matters
argument.
depending on what the other foundations are, because there could be horrible foundations in there, right?
If they're contradictory to forgiveness,
Right.
that would obviously present a problem. But I mean, we would
Or if,
have to look at
yeah,
the individual foundations, and I would make the argument that there aren't
right.
contradictory. Well,
Yeah,
there
it
is. I
depends
mean,
on,
the contradiction comes in from the Old Testament, eye for an eye, versus the New Testament, turn the other cheek. So there is a contradiction there.
well, I mean, and you could say, because it's conditional forgiveness on accepting Jesus,
Sure, there's a
so,
lot,
and
lots of
once you're
stuff.
damned, you can't really be forgiven. Um, it, I don't know. I guess
I got a sigh out of you. Look at this.
the thing is, it's just,
This is so painful.
well, no, it's that because the original, see, it's interesting because I'm glad we watched that clip because I forgot why we were even talking about this. The thing that you're focusing on is just, and I know because we've talked about it a lot on the stream, is this central idea of forgiveness in Christianity. But the thing that was starting me to do the pushback on this in the first place had nothing to do with that. It was about the idea that we've also talked about on stream, where you don't have a problem putting a big Jesus on a cross in a courtroom, and I do.
Right.
And it's because you're looking at that Jesus on a cross and you were saying, this, I'm going to look at this Jesus in a courtroom and I'm going to say, oh, it means forgiveness. So it's going to make everyone act more forgiving in the courtroom. And I just don't believe that. That's why I said in the clip, I'd be very interested to see a study to be like, would that make people give harsher sentencing or lesser sentencing?
What
Because I
would
feel like it
convince
could go
you?
either way.
What would convince you?
A poll, well, first of all, a study like that would be convincing. A poll like what I described about what is, you could ask people like, what is the primary thing that you think Christianity is about? Like one primary thing you think Christianity is about, or
Okay, so
however you want to
already you're
word it.
using different
Right.
language.
Well, you said central theme was a bad word, that it
No,
wasn't
yeah, no.
clear.
This
So
is
I'm trying
why
to
I
think of
did.
like a more clear one.
This is why I did, and we'll look at these polls, and then we'll wrap it up
But even
because
all
I
that,
don't.
but even also, even putting that all aside, even if, 80% of the population, and I granted 80% of the population looks at a statue of Jesus and the first thing they think of is forgiveness, I still don't think it should be in a courtroom. I
Well,
still,
that's a
you know,
separate look. That's
I
a
understand.
completely separate
Well,
debate.
I know
Okay.
that was the starting point of the conversation, but then
The
it turned into a
reason
different
the
conversation.
reason I got ticked off was because I just felt like you were moving the goalpost. Like, but
But you understand that I actually wasn't moving the goalposts, right?
well, yes, technically because of the exact wording that you did. But the reason that I changed the wording was just to try to get
No,
clearer. Look,
I get
there's
it,
a
but
truth claim here that we're investigating.
I get it, but you understand, if the poll said forgiveness is the most important foundations of Christianity, then I wouldn't. Then I would say, oh, okay, that would have been the question that I was asking,
Well,
right? By adding one of the most changes the question dramatically,
we I understand. Look,
right? Okay,
and
I just want to be
obviously
clear. I wasn't moving the goalpost. I love you guys. Forgive
obviously
me.
look, you know how
I'll
I feel
forgive
about
you.
forgiveness.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm contractually obligated to forgive you via Christianity,
There you
but
go.
I ditched that religion, and now
Uh,
I'm against the Christians because
there you go.
this is causing me such a headache.
Right.
So, well, the poll that we have here, and look, just to be clear here, the two of us are investigating a truth claim here. What is the people learn Christianity, do they walk away and learn this message of forgiveness? Like, that's one claim. Do they look at the cross and think forgiveness? That's kind of a different claim.
Right.
But so, and these polls that I'm doing are in no way scientific polls.
Of course.
Obviously, these are completely
Everyone's
slanted.
heard us have the conversation.
Exactly. There are audience.
Yes.
They're probably, they understand our take on it. It's a terrible sample. So, but
Right.
I think it's interesting to investigate the claim, and I'm curious what would convince you that I'm correct on the claim. Where obviously we have different opinions on the claim. Mine is biased because I grew up in Christianity. Now, look, I laid out all my biases in the beginning of the
Sure,
video,
mine's biased
so.
in that I didn't grow up as Christian, right?
Yeah, exactly. So here's the original poll. I say, is your understanding that forgiveness is one of the most important foundations of Christianity? Also, if you think forgiveness is important, but there is an idea that is more important than forgive us, let us know in the comments what the idea is. The comments below the poll. So, and this is overwhelmingly, so I asked if people were Christians and people were not Christians. So this is overwhelmingly, it's 49%. Yes, forgiveness is essential to Christianity. I'm a Christian. And 42% yes, essential, and I'm not a Christian. So what is that? That's like 93%.
Yeah.
And then no.
91, but yeah.
Okay, 91. And no is 10%. How's that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good question.
Interesting poll. These are not scientific.
Wait a minute. You hacked the poll. What's going on here?
These are not scientific polls. So
okay.
So it's 90-10, and I said 80-20. So I'm thinking, look, I got the goods here. I'm going to stick it to Sitch on the Tuesday stream.
And then I said,
and Sitch moves the goalpost.
I didn't move anything. You just poorly worded the first poll. Okay.
Look, and that I am not. It's not poor. You're saying poorly worded because you didn't win the poll, but I'm investigating.
No,
I am investigating the truth claim.
Either
I don't think you're going to get close to the truth claim with the original wording. But let's go.
Okay.
Go ahead. Let's move on. Look,
we can move on.
So the second poll, I'm investigating this truth claim that people are learning to be anti.
Oh my God, these polls.
Right. So I'm investigating. The more caustic, the more caustic claim here. So I'll let you read this one. You're a better reader. But this
which one
poll
of these
has
values is more foundational to the Christian religion? You have traditional marriage. I'm a Christian. Forgiveness. I'm a Christian. Traditional marriage. I'm not a Christian. And forgiveness. I'm not a Christian.
Right.
And we have 86% for forgiveness combined, and we have 14% for traditional marriage.
So 14% for traditional marriage. So even if people are getting the Matt Walsh stuff, they're willing to look at, they're willing to set aside forgiveness. They're like,
there you go.
I'm anti gay rights, right?
Right.
14%. You still have a 14. You're still under the 80-20 split that I laid out. Yeah.
That's true.
So look, I just asked it straight out. When I did this poll, I thought, oh man, this could come back. This could be really ugly. Mm-hmm. So what is your take on this?
I mean, I'm not surprised by our audience. I wouldn't think we'd have that many people in our audience that are like really hugely anti-gay marriage.
Of course. Yeah. Sitch and I both support gay marriage. Obviously, we talk about it on the show all the time. Yes.
I mean, the two of us are practically gay married at this point. So
yeah. Not really, but that's a joke. That's a joke, guys. But we do. I mean, I think we do have a bunch of Christians in our audience that are pro. I mean, look, nearly 50% of the poll is I'm a Christian.
Right.
I mean, wait, it's over 50%. It's 54% of the audience is up.
52. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm 42. A Christian.
52. Now you're bad math. Anyway, what's the next poll?
So
what is the central theme of forgiveness?
What is the central theme of Christianity? So this is your exact words from the clip.
There you go. Look,
I was like, look at this.
That's exactly. But wait, this poll shows exactly what I was saying.
Yeah, and look, we even argued in the comments. Everyone was super pissed about this poll because they're like, "Oh my God, this is going to prove Sitch right." And I'm like, "That's the point of the wording, is to prove Sitch right."
That was my original question.
Yeah, but look, we just had an argument about how central theme is confusing.
Okay.
I don't think this poll really tells you anything.
Okay.
This poll tells you how people define central theme.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you use the term central theme, forgiveness is only, it drops down to 20% for Christians, and it's 29% for Christians, something other than forgiveness.
Did people
right?
put in the poll in the comments what they thought it was if it wasn't forgiveness?
Yeah, and a lot of people were arguing in the comments saying, well, that links back to forgiveness, just like we did earlier when you were talking about sacrifice.
Yeah, but sacrifice can link to forgiveness, but it's not necessarily the same thing as forgiveness.
They talked about love too. All of these things are pro-social. Look, back to my original argument. My original argument is just Christianity teaches forgiveness, puts the meme into the culture. They don't, nowhere in public schools do they come out and give you a class on forgiveness. No, it's better to forgive people than to
Well, I mean, they generally
grudges.
don't teach you morality like that in school. I mean,
Right,
they kind of did in like kindergarten a little bit now that I think about it, but not like, past that point.
My argument is that the meme needs to get into the culture somehow.
People don't want their schools teaching morality, though. That's a dangerous road to walk. I mean, you'd agree
Are
with
you
that.
trolling me now? Are you trolling me?
Listen, Joe.
Look, my argument is that this, and it sounds like you agree with that argument, that it needs to get into the culture somehow. I'm not advocating for public school to teach it. I'm saying public school does not teach it.
Okay. I agree.
If if you can learn it in Marvel movies,
yes,
then fine. I'm saying, okay.
I'm down.
But it has to get into the culture somehow.
I agree.
Christianity does it.
I agree.
When I asked you, does Judaism do it?
I said, yeah, kind of.
Kind of. Okay. We'll do the one.
You're asking a really bad person. I don't know what the average.
We'll do the Judaism poll later. No, I'm terrified to do that poll.
You're not going to get good answers.
So we're still, and we'll wrap it up here. We're still at a deadlock on the actual truth claim.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we could do another poll if you think if there's wording that we're both going to think is going to deliver results that are going to be persuasive. You're not persuaded by any of these polls, it sounds like, but
well, the one that you don't like, I'm persuaded by.
Right, because it proves the thing that you want to prove. But I don't think it's look, I am actually surprised that forgiveness is up to 41% just with this terrible wording. So I think this poll actually proves my point.
Okay.
41% is, I mean, that's pretty high just for this terrible wording.
Mm-hmm.
What wording? Well, we can talk about this later. Let us know in the comments below what wording you think would produce the results that will destroy.
Well, okay, but before we end,
claim.
I just want to say, you understand? Do you can you word my point, my argument?
Your argument?
Yeah.
That your argument is that people are learning different things from Christianity. That Christianity teaches people different. They walk away learning different things, and someone might not learn forgiveness.
Right, and that well, they could learn forgiveness, but it could be conditional on whether you accept Jesus or not.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it is that, and it's that. Just I don't know if everyone takes forgiveness as a central foundation, or probably a central, but the central foundation of Christianity. And then I guess to kind of expound on that and how that relates to other people's lives in terms of how do they, live that? Because there's lots of people that are like, hate the sin, love the sinner, right? And there's lots of people that are like, burn the degenerates. So, and there has been for hundreds of years. So it seems like there's always just, been a lot of conflict about, these ideas since the year zero.
Do you think religions, and specifically Christianity, are designed to teach a certain set of values?
Of course.
I don't think it's just random. I think the reason why people resonate with Christianity a lot of times is because there's this message of overcoming adversity that
I agree completely.
it's impossible to read the Christian stories and not walk away with a certain belief. I guess the way to ask is, do you think there are certain concepts that cannot be avoided in Christianity? Christianity teaches these concepts whether you like it or not. It's not just a Rorschach inkblot test and you can think whatever you want.
I would probably say I don't agree with that, because I think everything is like that.
Okay.
And also what everyone focuses on is very different. And I would imagine what every preacher or priest focuses on is going to be somewhat different. I mean, I agree. Like if we're just like looking at the story of Jesus and analyzing it like as like a film, if we were like a movie, obviously, this theme of forgiveness is a very big theme in the whole story, right? It would seem undeniable. So I'm not denying that forgiveness is not a big part of Christianity or a big theme in Christianity, because obviously it's, as you said in the clip that we watched, God sends his only son to suffer, to absolve humans of original sin, right?
Yeah, it's a passion story. It's basically the movie Passion of the Christ.
Right. So yeah, no, I mean, I definitely get it.
Well, you're still saying that people could watch the Passion of the Christ movie and walk away and think completely different things. And I just fundamentally think as a movie narrative, take any movie. Well, obviously you'd exclude like David Lynch movies, right? But you take Barbie, take Star Wars.
Well,
people are going to converge on what this movie is about.
Here's a good example. So when, passion plays have been around for a very long time. And I remember reading a study about this a long time ago. I have to go find it again, because I remember kind of reading about this when, Mel Gibson made the Passion of the Christ movie, because it was kind of a little controversial when it came out.
It was very controversial.
And part of the reason it was controversial is because supposedly, historically, when, I'm talking about like way back in the day, when there'd be passion plays that would be performed in Europe, a lot of times it would lead to big upswings and upticks of anti-Semitic violence, because people watch this and say, "Oh my God, look at the horrible suffering of Jesus. I can't believe the Jews did this / allowed it to happen."
Yeah, they're the bad guys.
Right, they're the bad guys. Let's go get them, right? And so that's what I mean. Like, people watch the passion play. They didn't see, a lot of people were not very forgiving of the Jews after watching that. Right?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's a great point. It is a great point. Yeah. Yeah. So it doesn't really deviate. It doesn't impact my initial argument that it's putting the forgiveness needs to be put into the culture.
I agree 100%,
somehow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Somehow. Yes.
Look, and if I'm not a Christian, so I think Christianity is pulling some of the load here, and I'm sure some movies are pulling some of the load, right?
I'm sure.
Some movies revolve around forgiveness. I just want to talk about this more in just a real pragmatic way, since I find it interesting. So
okay.
Any final thoughts, or is it?
That's it.
Okay, here we go. Hi, you just listened to a Sitch and Adam recorded video. That's right, we're doing Monday through Friday deep dive recorded videos now. And of course, we're still doing our live streams. Our live streams are on Sunday and Tuesday starting at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And you can super chat us, or you can join the channel. Subscribe to this channel right here to watch the live show or watch more of our awesome deep dive videos.